Before Washington, D.C. became the bustling capital we know today, it was a small, fragile city clinging to the edge of the Potomac River. Calm, reflective music plays as the camera pans over a historical painting of early Washington, D.C., setting the tone. This is the story of the first residents, their struggles, their triumphs, and the lives they built in the shadow of a young nation's dreams. In 1790, the decision was made to establish the United States Capitol along the Potomac, a compromise between North and South. But while the political vision was grand, the reality on the ground was far from it. The area that would become D.C. was mostly farmland, forests, and swampland. The terrain was unforgiving, with humid summers, harsh winters, and frequent outbreaks of disease like malaria and yellow fever. The city's infrastructure was virtually non-existent. No paved roads, no running water, and limited shelter. The early settlers of Washington, D.C. were a diverse group. Some were government officials and their families, lured by duty and ambition. Others were laborers, craftsmen, and freed or enslaved African Americans, drawn by the promise of work in the growing city. Entrepreneurs arrived to set up taverns, boarding houses, and general stores. Life was difficult, but the opportunity to be part of something new, a city built to serve the ideals of democracy, offered a sense of purpose. Historical visuals show the difficult environment these pioneers endured. Muddy roads, wooden scaffolding around unfinished buildings, and small clusters of homes surrounded by wilderness. Maps and simple animations illustrate the early, chaotic layout of the city, which fell short of the grand vision set forth by Pierre L'Enfant. While L'Enfant had imagined sweeping boulevards and majestic government buildings, the reality was a patchwork of half-built structures and unfulfilled plans. Congress met in unfinished buildings, and the President's House, what we now call the White House, stood as one of the few completed landmarks. Yet even in the midst of hardship, a sense of community began to form. Markets emerged as places not only for trade, but also for socializing and exchanging news. Churches were established, becoming central to both spiritual and social life. Schools opened, offering children a sense of normalcy and a future rooted in education. Daily life was filled with physical labor, whether laying bricks, tending to crops, or hauling goods along unpaved roads, but also with moments of connection and celebration. Visuals bring to life these early scenes, people gathering at open-air markets, children reciting lessons in modest classrooms, and families attending church services together. Slowly but surely, social life blossomed. Residents gathered for public balls, concerts, and theatrical performances, bringing music and culture to the muddy streets. These events helped create a sense of identity for the new city, one that balanced resilience with aspiration. As the decades passed, D.C. began to grow. With time came progress. New buildings were constructed, streets were graded and paved, and the city expanded. The federal government's presence attracted more settlers, businesses, and investment. Canals and later railroads improved transportation and trade, allowing D.C. to evolve from a disjointed outpost into a functioning capital. Historical maps fade into present-day overlays, illustrating how neighborhoods took shape and how L'Enfant's vision slowly materialized. By the mid-19th century, Washington had begun to take on the stature expected of a capital city. Grand buildings like the Capitol and the Smithsonian Institution stood tall, signaling a city that had found its footing. And yet, beneath the grandeur, the legacy of those early residents remained. Their grit, their faith in the future, and their contributions to a city destined to represent the ideals of a young republic. Today, we walk the streets they once walked. We live in neighborhoods they helped build. Their stories, sometimes forgotten, often unsung, are still present in the brick and mortar of this living city. In closing, a montage of modern D.C. landmarks plays. Aerial views of the National Mall, quiet shots of historic row houses, and scenes of lively neighborhood life. Text overlays highlight key moments from the video. The story of the first residents is one of struggle, perseverance, and an unshakable belief in the promise of something greater. Washington, D.C. stands today not just as a center of power, but as a living tribute to the people who built it from the ground up. What do you think of their legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this story, give us a like, Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a chapter in DC's incredible history. Stay tuned for our next video, which takes you to the capital during one of the nation's most defining moments,